So we're at Centre for Musical Arts in Dubai, and we're with the lovely Tala Badri, who is the founder and executive director of Centre for Musical Arts. And what makes her extra special is that she is also the first female Emirati music graduate. And Tala has been born and brought up in Dubai, but she studied her music abroad. But tell us a little more about all of that, Tala. Why music? What got you interested in it?
Oh, when I was at school, it was my favourite subject. And partly because it was something I was good at that nobody else was good at. It's like most things. When you're good at something, you just want to show off and you want to do that sort of thing. But I loved music. I started learning the piano when I was about 4 years old, then took up the guitar. And when I went to secondary school, I started learning the flute, which is my main instrument. And it's what I went to study at university. So it was just something that I enjoyed. I think it was when I was about 15, a lady called Suzanne Milan, who's a really famous flautist, she was a student of James Galway, came to Dubai and had a masterclass, and I had a masterclass with her. And after that masterclass, I decided that that's really what I wanted to do. So at 15, I thought, yes, I want to go and study music because it was just so inspiring. It's really what I wanted to do.
Amazing. And tell us about the support from your parents. Were they a little taken aback? Or?
Not at all. I mean, my parents are my biggest support network, to the point that when I was at school, nobody else wanted to study music. So when I did GCSE music and then A-level music, I was the only student in class, and the school weren't going to allow that. And my parents went in to fight for me to be able to do that, because that's really what I wanted to do. So they are my biggest support network until today.
Amazing. And at that young age, did you imagine or did you think about what you'd be able to do with music by studying music?
I had an idea. I never wanted to be a performer. I actually have incredible stage fright. So I never really wanted to be a performer. I knew I wanted to do something in music. I just loved playing. I loved being in an ensemble, so I really enjoyed chamber music. I also loved composition, which is one of the things that I did most of when I was there. So I think I just knew I wanted to do music. I didn't really think about what kind of career I would have. I assumed it would always just be teaching. So I never really thought beyond that at the time.
Amazing. Yeah. And then, so you did go into teaching soon after?
No, I didn't. So I graduated and I came back to Dubai. I tried to find a job teaching music. And at that time, so we're talking early 90s, the only schools that taught music were the international or the British schools. And there were very few compared to today. And they didn't want a non-British person teaching music because they didn't think that they could, even though I had graduated with a degree from a British university. So I found it really difficult to get a job. And I thought, oh, well, I suppose I could do instrumental teaching, private teaching. And my mum gave me some great advice. She said, if you do that, you will never meet people your own age. You will always be dealing with parents and children, and you're still so young. You really need to do something that will give you learn more about life. So I actually went back to university, did a second degree, and I ended up going on a whole different tangent. I got a graduate trainee job with Barclays, a bank.
Okay.
And I did some training in the UK, and they sent me back to Dubai because they opened up a branch, and I was working with them for a couple of years. Then I decided finance really wasn't for me, and I managed to get a job with Mars, the chocolate company, in their HR department, and I ended up working with them for 10 years, which was wonderful. It was some of the best experiences I had. I got to travel the world. I lived in Vienna, I lived in India, I traveled to Morocco and Egypt, and I worked my way up through the company until I became the head of what they call personnel and organisation there. And the only reason I ended up leaving was because I got pregnant with my first child. So it was such an experience because I learned so much about business functions, because I trained in sales, I trained in marketing, I trained in HR, I trained in finance, in logistics. So in hindsight, it was probably the route I had to take to be able to get to where I am today. But after that, I had my first child, and I wanted to go back to work, but I couldn't because she was diagnosed as autistic. So I needed to be at home with her, take her to lots of therapy. And at the same time, and we're talking 2004, they had launched the project to build Dubai Community Theatre and Arts Centre. And I was approached to be on the board of directors to support the building of that. And and that was great because it kept me busy as well, and I did that. And when they had actually built the theatre and the arts centre, there was space in there, and the chairman approached me and said, "Oh, well, why don't you just open a music school here?" And I just went, "Oh, well, there's an idea."
Yeah.
You know, it took me a very long-winded route to get to where I was going. And at the same time, my daughter was doing a lot of music therapy, and I'd seen how much it was helping her. And it reminded me how much I loved music, because I'd come so far away from it in those 10 years. So I said, yes, okay, let's do it. So I went and got a bank loan, and I opened the Centre for Musical Arts in 2006.
Wow. So it's been almost 20 years.
Yeah, 17 years. It will be 18 years this year.
Do you already have plans for the 20th anniversary celebration?
Oh, it's so funny you asked that, because I had some ex-colleagues visiting this week actually, and they were saying, right, what are you planning for the 20th anniversary?
Absolutely.
You have to do something. And I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I should. It's in 2 years'
make a big
time.
bang.
I'll have to start planning ahead. Yes, maybe. Yes, I am getting a lot of push towards doing something special from ex-colleagues and from current colleagues. Yeah.
Nice. It would be nice.
It would, yes.
And I think you've got enough time to
Yes.
plan something amazing.
Yes.
So while we're talking about CMA and when it started, and now you've been around almost 20 years, and then when did you start thinking about having your students do music exams or performing arts exams?
From the very beginning. So we have always had exams, and Trinity was one of them. So we've actually been doing Trinity music exams for the last 15, 16 years. Yeah.
Pretty much all through.
All through, yes.
While CMA
Yeah.
has been around.
Yes.
That's amazing. And
yeah.
Is there a reason why Trinity? Like, do you see any benefits?
I'm incredibly biased. So I have a preference for Trinity over a lot of people use APRSM, but I have a preference for Trinity, and I'll tell you why. It's because it's so much closer to real life music, I think. And so as a woodwind player, I find certainly at the higher grades, you get that exposure to orchestral music first and foremost, which you may not necessarily have if you're doing other exams. So I really like that about it. I also like the fact that the supporting tests for Trinity are part and parcel of the same thing. So what do I mean by that? When you're doing your oral tests, you have a piece of music, but everything from the supporting tests surrounds that one extract, which is a natural thing. You know, you listen to it, you repeat it, you have to say what time signature it's in, you have to clap it back, and it's the same thing. So you really delve into that one piece of music, which for me is what analysis is all about. Whereas in other exams, they give you a piece for listening, a piece to repeat, a piece to clap, and that's not, for me, that's not real life. And so I find the Trinity so much more practical in terms of what you get from it as a musician, personally. And it has really come a long way. So now the syllabuses, I mean, the choices are fantastic. And all my students personally much prefer doing Trinity because they've got a choice. They've got a choice of, if they want to play just classical music, they can. If they want to play just film music, they can. If they want to mix it up with a little bit of rock or pop, they can. It's brilliant.
That's so good to hear.
Yeah.
And have you seen that evolve through the 15 years?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the latest releases for syllabuses and the idea that they will no longer just release a new syllabus every year like other exams do. They will just add to previous syllabuses, which gives you a huge bank of repertoire to work from, which is what it's about. Learning just 3 pieces or 4 pieces of music, that's not music for me. And that's certainly not a really good music education. The opportunity to have a huge bank to learn a bucket of music from and then choose what you want to perform, I think is definitely the way to go. Yeah.
But I'm sure that a lot of students that have come through CMA
Yeah.
aren't really pursuing music. That's not their end goal.
Yes.
How do you think it helps students like that? Does it really?
It does because it has the choice. So I would say, I mean, let's be honest, 5-6% of students will want to go on and make music a career, which is a small number. I mean, we have 1,500 students, and maybe just a handful will want to go and study music as a career. But because it gives such flexibility, they can still have a goal and still gain a certificate and still enjoy music the way they want to. So I have a student at the moment who hates exams, really doesn't want to do it. And I introduced her to the grade 5 Trinity piano syllabus. And it's got Bach's Prelude in C major. She's like, oh, I know this piece. It's so famous. I want to play it. And it's got the music from We, in it. And she's like, oh, I recognize this tune. I play it when the We comes on. That's the tune. She's like, oh, I want to learn that. So it gives them something that they recognize. It's like really in tune with students of today, I think. So even if they don't want to study music, they have something that they can play for enjoyment. And, and that doesn't also count all the skills you learn and, how good it is for you and, all the right brain, left brain, all of that research. It's on top of that.
That's so amazing to hear. And what about the students who do go on to study music, the 5 or 6%?
Yeah.
Do you feel they see a benefit, or does it give them an edge if they have a Trinity certificate?
I speaking from a woodwind perspective, absolutely. More so because they do those orchestral extracts. Because when I went to university, I had no knowledge of that. I had no exposure to that. And when I arrived, it was like, oh, I didn't know how to play this in this group and be in the spotlight and have it so perfect. I think at the moment, it prepares them better. If you are a wind or a brass instrument or an orchestral instrument player. I think for piano, it's all very balanced, really. It's as good an exam as any other. I prefer it because it just gives you more opportunity to learn different styles. Absolutely. Not everybody wants to learn just Mozart and Beethoven and Bach and Schubert. They want experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
While we're talking about the piano syllabus and the amazing and vast repertoire that it now offers, do any of your students think about or do the rock and pop exam?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I would say our guitarists, our drummers, and our vocalists, most of them, I would say 80% of them, do the rock and pop for Trinity, including my son, who did grade 8 Trinity drums recently. And they do follow that. It's very, very popular here. And especially the vocal aspect. We have a lot of students that take that on and very much enjoy it. I have started to experiment, because it's not really my field, because I'm very classically trained and kind of go down that route, with the keyboards, because the songs are fabulous. Yes. And it's interesting because the students think, oh, but rock and pop, is that not too easy? And we look at it, and I think actually it's more difficult than the classical syllabus, especially because you have to keep in time, you have to follow a backing track, and you have to work different styles. And when I introduce it to them and we say pick a song just for fun, they're like, oh, this is more difficult than I thought. So grade 1 keyboards or piano, rock and pop is far more difficult than grade 1 on the classical syllabus. And I think it's great because it really stretches them, but it really makes them, it expands their horizons in terms of actual technical ability. Because one of the things I think most students find difficult is keeping to a rhythm and, you know, and keeping a beat. So I use that myself for practice, but it's an experimental stage at the moment.
Nice.
Yeah.
And do you feel like there's a certain age where they choose rock and pop over classical? Do you give them the choice?
We give them the choice. I know certainly the electric guitarists and the drummers and the singers get a choice. And, you know, we have those that want to do the rock and pop. We have those. I mean, I was so excited. They're introducing musical theatre for Trinity. So I think we will have a big uptake for that as well.
That's nice.
Very few go down the classical route for that at the moment because it's just not cool.
Unfortunately,
Yes.
We'll bring that back.
Yes.
So Tala, what about performing arts in the region as a whole, like in the bigger picture? Where do you think we're headed in a right direction?
Do you know, so 17 years ago, when I started CMA, we couldn't even register as a business properly because there wasn't a registration policy for a music centre at the time. Even though they had the Yamaha Music School, Sing and Swing, and a couple of other things at the time. So they had to create one for us to register under. Fast forward to today in Dubai, where you have an opera house, where you have visiting artists in Abu Dhabi, where they bring brilliant orchestras to perform, and they have the Abu Dhabi Festival. And now they've introduced more recently grants for music. They have opened up the golden visa, the cultural visa for musicians. So the change in just 15 years, like the UAE in itself, is it's booming. So where in other parts of the world, music is taking a downturn, or certainly budgets are being cut for music education or for orchestras, you know, having to disband and choirs. Here, I think it'll start to see a little bit of a renaissance. I mean, nothing is supported currently on a federal level or government level, but I think that might come. Hopefully there will be some sort of investment and injection into building an orchestra, building sort of an institute that is, you know, for further music here. And I think within the next 10 years, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. So I do see a great future for music. It just needs a little bit of change in policy and somebody to really spearhead it from the top. And I think that will happen. I'll just give it a few more years.
Thank you so much, Tala, for taking time and sitting with us and telling us about everything you and everything CMA. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
And we hope to see you spearheading something maybe with the government and building this institute.
Oh, maybe. I like what I do. I like grassroots. I like children. So I'm happy where I am. I'm happy introducing people into music. and then hopefully I can retire. But thank you so much.
Yeah.